The big news last week was the Fed cutting the overnight borrowing rate by 50 basis points to an upper target of 5%. The Fed's most visible monetary tool is this overnight borrowing rate, also known as the Fed funds rate, and it's watched incredibly closely by economists, investors, and business people. When the Fed is hiking this rate, it serves to tap the brakes on economic activity. On the other hand, when the Fed is lowering this rate, it's a bit like pushing the gas pedal, as it stimulates economic activity through increased borrowing, spending, and investment. Now, there is a lot I could say about last week's decision to lower this key rate by a half a percentage point. For this video, though, I really want to narrow the focus to one key piece here, and that is inflation. You may recall that the Fed, which controls the supply of money and short-term interest rates, it has two mandates: maximum employment and stable prices. Maximum employment refers to the highest level of employment the economy can allow without triggering excessive inflation. So it's really like 95, 96% employment, not 100%. And price stability basically refers to keeping inflation under control. The Fed's target rate of inflation is 2% annually. I made a chart for this video that's going to help tell the story about the relationship between the Fed funds interest rate and inflation. It goes back 10 years to 2014. Now I'm going to push play here, and gradually two lines will be revealed. The white line is the Fed funds rate, and the yellow line is inflation. In late 2015, inflation started to creep higher from being around zero for much of the year. In response, the Fed hiked its rate 25 basis points, or 0.25% to 0.5% in late 2015, and then held it there until late 2016, when it became a little more clear that inflation was indeed inching higher, so the Fed had to act. That rate hiking campaign, which started in late 2016, lasted 2 years to 2018, at which time the rate plateaued at 2.5%. That's when the Fed stopped, and it seems to make sense in hindsight because the inflation rate came back down below the 2% target for several months. Fed officials were so convinced that inflation wasn't a problem that they began cutting rates in 2019. And then we see the impact of COVID-19 in early 2020. The Fed cut rates back to essentially zero to cushion the blow to the economy. But shortly thereafter, the prices of goods and services bounced higher and then continued marching higher while the Fed funds rate remained at zero. Fed policymakers were initially not convinced that this skyrocketing inflation was sticky enough to warrant interest rate hikes. The word they used was transitory. However, after 10 straight months of inflation being more than 5% year over year, the Fed caved and started hiking rates. And boy, did they, raising the rate from near zero to 5.5% over the course of 15 months. And it seems to have had the desired effect, bringing the inflation rate back down to the 2 to 4% range where it has been for a little over a year now. I want to come back to the Fed's dual mandate of maximum employment and price stability. The Fed's focus can shift back and forth between employment and inflation. For the past few years, the focus has been squarely on inflation. By cutting interest rates 50 basis points last week, the Fed has indicated that inflation is under control and is expected to stay around 2%. That's my biggest takeaway from last week's cut. That is all for now. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in a month.